Hey guys, it's Jason. Welcome to the show. So glad you found us and are listening or watching. We're growing here at Happiness Sold Separately, and we need your help to keep it up. If you enjoy what we're doing here, please take a second and make a comment and subscribe to the show. If you could share it with just 2 friends or family members, it would mean the world to us and help us continue to attract interesting guests who have amazing stories to tell. I'm so grateful you're here, and now enjoy this episode.
Auto sequence start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Shaylee Hunter, and happiness is not comparing yourself to other people and where they're at on their journey, because in time, yours will happen as well.
All right, Shaylee, thank you so much for taking time for me. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a chance to read up a little bit on you and your life and checked out your social media a little bit. You have a really interesting story.
Yes, it's been an amazing life with lots of bumps and turns and all sorts of things.
You're a very strong advocate for what you describe as invisible disabilities, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I identify as somebody who has an invisible disability, and growing up, I was bullied a lot and just went through a lot of life struggles trying to figure out who I am and who I wanted to be. And so now I'm an advocate for other people who have invisible disabilities, whether that's when they're born or they come later in their life as well. And I just want to spread that body positivity and self-acceptance to people who are trying to navigate the same thing.
That's amazing. Did you live with these disabilities? Are they lifelong? Or tell me a little bit about your story.
Of course. So I was diagnosed at 6 months old with chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction. Pretty much the muscles and nerves in my intestines do not work at all, and there's nothing to cure that. So obviously, I've done a lot of medications, different surgeries to help. But ultimately, it just ended up me having to have my intestines removed. So I now am considered short gut syndrome, and I am on a transplant list as well. So it's been really hard just, trying to navigate that life and trying to figure out how to live with a chronic illness that, like, you don't even know if you're going to continue to live with all the things that are thrown at you.
And what transplant list are you on? What do you need?
Yeah, so due to me having short bowel syndrome, I have to have a feeding tube that goes into my heart, and I get all my nutrition that way. And even though it's keeping me alive, it actually is ruining my liver at the same time. It's not a perfect system. And so I would have a liver, a pancreas, and a small bowel transplant. And that's through Nebraska Medical Center.
What have they said? Are you close on the list, or what's kind of the update on that?
So I've been approved for a transplant, like I qualify, but currently I'm not active on the list. I Once they removed part of my intestine and I was now considered short gut syndrome, I had a better quality of life. I haven't been in the hospital as much. I've been able to, go to college. I'm getting my master's degree in like 7 weeks. I got married. So like my quality of life right now is super great, where I don't want to go through the transplant process where things are good right now. Obviously, like that can change at any moment, especially with, the feeding tube aspect. I can lose central access, like placements, and then that would be, a better place to like then move into the transplant. So we're just kind of waiting for that, like if I'm starting to lose access and I can't have that feeding tube placed, or if my liver levels start to go up, we're just kind of in that limbo area of like, when is the best time to do this without, disrupting my entire life, because it's a long process to like go through not only that surgery, but the recovery after.
Yeah, I can imagine it's very it takes a toll on your body, I'm sure, and emotions too, mentally. Kind of stepping back a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? Did you have a hard time in school, like trying to meet friends and dealing with all that? It's hard enough without having a disability, but can you talk about that maybe to even give kids some hope that like maybe going through some of the same things?
Yeah, so growing up, my doctors actually told my mom like to homeschool me. And my mom was like, no, like this kid is a social butterfly. Like, I'm not going to set her up for something else in life. And my mom was like, I don't want to homeschool. Like, she needs to go to school. She needs to live a normal childhood despite like like illness, disability, whatever. Like, my mom was trying to navigate it as well. And she was like, no, like she was very adamant that I was going to go to school and do everything that I wanted to do despite what the doctors were saying. And so I went to school. I actually went to a charter school for the arts, which was super fun. I did like the smaller classroom. I feel like that was more beneficial for me and my illness. But it was hard because I was constantly in the hospital. And so, if you're not at school all the time, then you don't have friends. And that was, I feel like, the hardest part about going to school is like, I loved learning. I loved, the social aspect of it, but I didn't have a lot of like friends who were like my friends constantly. Like, yeah, they talked to me at school, but like they had more best friends who were there every day, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah.
But I did have like one friend once I kind of hit junior high. I was on the cheer team and I met my best friend Kelsey, who is actually still my best friend to this day. She would come up with my mom like after school to like visit me in the hospital. My mom would like pick her up and stuff and bring her up, and she'd hang out with me in the hospital, and like we'd have a ton of fun. And she came to my wedding, and she actually has a job now as a nurse at the hospital that I was in as a child, because that motivated her in her career aspects. And so I'm
Mm.
super proud of her, of like, doing what she wanted, but I don't think that would have happened if like we hadn't been friends. So I had one best friend, and that's all that matters.
That's all you need sometimes,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
that's
that's
all you
like
need.
that is
Yeah.
so cool that your lives kind of crossed, and now through you and your friendship, she's found her calling as well. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Um, you also are an advocate for body positivity and embracing who you are with whatever's going on in your life. Has that been a lifelong journey too for you to kind of battle through some of those demons?
Yeah, it's been really hard. So with my intestines not working, I always had like my stomach that was always bloated and distended, just bigger, which a lot of kids used to bully me because of that, thinking I was, bigger. Or once I got into like junior high and high school, people thought I was pregnant, which obviously like wasn't the case, but it was just because of how petite I am. It was like then my belly's super distended and big, and of course like that's what people's first thoughts are, which is crazy to me that like that's what their thoughts were, but it's okay. I, had to learn how to deal with that and navigate that as well. And then I got my ostomy when I was a junior in high school at 16. And I feel like that was the hardest part. Like I could deal with people, teasing me about my stomach being big or whatever, because deep down inside, like I knew that like that wasn't true. Like I
Mhm.
wasn't pregnant. Like I was dealing with a lot of other things that like they couldn't even comprehend probably
Mhm.
at their age. And so when I got my ostomy though, that was really hard. I didn't honestly want to go back to school my senior year, but my mom kind of forced me to go, and my teachers were really amazing. They actually let me use their staff bathroom for that entire year,
Mhm.
because I was so embarrassed of like going in the regular bathroom with everybody else. So, I mean, the ostomies make noises and you
Mhm.
can't control them. And so that was always hard. But I also had, one best friend that was always willing to, help me by my side. So I remember one day in class, my ostomy just had let out this like awful noise. And the sweet boy behind me, that was my friend, was like, sorry guys, that was me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank you
Aw.
so much. Like, so it was just, those little moments of those friendships that were what kept me going. I feel like if I didn't have those, like, just that one person at school who loved me for who I was, I don't think I would have been able to make it through
Mm.
that any aspect of elementary and junior high or high school, because those are some rough years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're rough no matter what. But then when you have something like that, I mean, my goodness, I mean, you were so brave to go through all that. And I mean, how did you do that? I mean, every day going to school, you have to worry about homework, and there's boys and there's other stuff, and you're on the cheer team. How did you get through those days? Was there a secret to it, or did you just kind of deal with
I
it?
think I think the biggest secret was that my mom, growing up, this sounds awful, but like it truly helped me, I guess. She always claimed that my illness wasn't contagious.
Hmm.
She was like, "You're not contagious. I'm sorry if you were up all night, that you don't feel good." But she was like, "You still have to go to school. You still have to do things." I did have like a 501 plan where like I could turn in work later, and as long as I communicated with my teachers and things like that, they were always willing to help and do things like that. Obviously, I was not like a 4.0 student. For the most part, like the years that I was really healthy, I could get a 4.0, but when I was, you know, sick in the hospital a lot, my mom was like, just pass the class, like
Yeah.
just pass it. Once I hit like ninth grade and like things started to count, I did have to make up some credits my senior year from ninth grade and my junior year when I got my ostomy. But I did all the work. I mean, I put it in, and then, now I'm in college and graduating with my master's. So if my mom wouldn't have pushed me and like told me like not to give in to my illness and let it win, I don't think I would have had, the ability to do what I do now of going
Mm.
to work and doing school and all these amazing things. Like if my stomach hurts, oh well, like I still have things to do. Like
Mm.
there's people that depend on me at my job. And so, I always have to put other people ahead of me as well. But there are some times where I'm like, you know what, like today is like a really bad day. Like I need to take a day for myself, because if I don't, then I won't be able to make it through the rest of the week, or this could end up, in the hospital. So it's really like trying to navigate like what is the worst case scenario with my body and what can I actually push through.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like you have a really great mom. I mean, for her to put it in those words, and I think that's really great because it showed you and taught you that you are like everybody else. I mean, everybody, sees you as like a normal kid. So I think that was great that she didn't let you, I don't use the word get away with it, but it's like, as a kid, you want to use that as like an excuse, like I can't go to school or whatever. But
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. Um, on the ostomy bag, is that something you ever get used to, or is it? Do you talk about that a little bit? I mean, for some people who may not know, I mean, is that something that you just kind of forget about, or during the day, or how do you deal with that?
The first year was really hard. I actually didn't want to do the surgery, but my parents didn't do it earlier in my life just because they wanted it to be my decision.
Hmm.
And so I was really grateful that my parents like held off on that, letting that be my choice. When I did decide to do it at 16, obviously I was not super thrilled about it, but I also like didn't want to die, so it was kind of like a rough situation. But my dad was super supportive. I was very moody as a teenager, and I didn't want to change my back at all or really touch it or anything. And so my poor dad decided that he was going to take care of me, and he did for an entire year. And so bless his heart, because it was not easy. I would call him up all the time and be like, "Hey, it's leaking. Like I need you to come home and change it from work," and he'd rush home and help me. It wasn't until he started to like slowly like not come home fast from work, and he would sometimes like, I'm very OCD in particular, and so he'd like click the bag on like ever so slightly sideways. And he knew that would annoy me, and so eventually it was just like I had to not depend on him and just figure it out myself, because
Hmm.
he, kind of stepped away from that and wanted me to become independent. And in the moment, it was really hard because I was mad at him, but I'm super grateful that like he did do that, because it, taught me again to be independent and do things on my own. And so I loved my parents' outlook on that, even though it was hard in the moment. But me and my parents have a great relationship as well. And, now I take care of my ostomy bag. I don't have to depend on other people. And that's not the case for everybody. But I'm super happy that I have that ability to take care of it. You know, I have a sense of like when it's getting full, so I can go to the bathroom. But for the most part, like now that it's been like over 10 years, like it's just a part of me. Like I don't really remember life before my
Mm.
ostomy bag, which is crazy to me. Because now, like, as I get older, like, it's going to be more of my life than I've had without it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a better quality of life with it. I am healthier. I'm not in as much pain. And so, in my eyes, I'm like, my ostomy saved my life. And I like my ostomy. And, there's a lot of stigmas around it. But even my husband, like, he's totally fine with it. Like, he knew marrying me that, like, this was a part of me. And I'm super grateful that I met a wonderful man that was willing to take that on with me as well.
Wow, how important is that? I mean, you guys sound like you are a great match. How important is that to have someone in your life that gets you and you get him and be able to go through these things together?
It honestly scared me when I was 16 that I would never meet anybody that would want to marry me and want to deal with everything that I had on my plate. As much as I, want a family and to be married, like that was one of my biggest fears. I was 16 going into that surgery was like
Mm.
nobody was going to love me with this bag. And boy, was I wrong. And trust me, like I had a lot of dates and a lot of boys that were not super great about it, but for the most part, like dating and me being upfront and honest about like my health and me having ostomy bag, like a lot of people were really open to it, which I didn't expect. So,
Mm.
um, if anybody's getting an ostomy, like it's not an end game. Like there is still a lot that you can do. And I think it did help because my husband works in the medical field. And so he does have that knowledge, which I think made it better for us to be a match in that regard.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that does help a lot. And will you be able to, with transplant, will you be able to get rid of that once you have your transplant?
Potentially. That could be an option. Obviously, I'll have to heal from the surgery first and go through a lot of things for a year, and then they can talk about revising that. But a lot of times people who revise sometimes have to then go back to an ostomy, so it's a lot of back and forth surgery, and so I don't know if I want to do that. Obviously we'll hit that road when we get there,
Mm.
but that could be an option. And honestly, I'm not like, oh, I need that. I
Hmm.
really adapted to my life and I love what I do. There's some perks to having an ostomy, so that's kind of good. My husband always is jealous because if we go to like places that have like porta potties and stuff, like I don't ever have to touch them, like
Oh, yeah.
because I just empty my bag into them, and so there's perks like that like I don't have to sit on a porta potty. So
Yeah, it's all how you look at it, right? It's all how you
yeah.
look at life. Yeah. Going back again when you're a teenager and going through school, do you think in today, even with kids, do you think social media plays a lot in how kids feel about themselves and about getting down on themselves? I think it's really we've seen a lot of damage that can be caused by social media. You look at some accounts and you think, oh, they're living the best life. I wish I could have that life, and it's a lot of that is not. It's made up and it's put out there to get attention. So, do you think that's sort of a downfall to kids today if they have any of these issues?
Yeah, I do, but I feel like it can be used for good, just like everything else in life. I mean, I personally wish I would have had social media at a younger age so that I could have connected with amazing people across the United States and outside of the United States that have similar disabilities like me.
Mm.
I went to a conference as an intern for the Oli Foundation for people who are on nutritional support due to intestinal diseases, and I've met some amazing people that I would have never met had I not done one, my internship, or had social media to stay in contact with them. I have friends in Seattle, Arkansas, Virginia. And so it's amazing what social media can do to connect a community that is so far away from each other. But on the flip side of that, like when I was in junior high and high school and just getting into that social media aspect, like I was really bullied by a lot
Mm,
of people. A lot of people who had sent me messages, and people still do to this day that will make profiles and just message me horrible things. And they've even messaged my husband things about me as well. And so it
mm,
just goes to show that, like, you know, people can take advantage of that and hide behind a screen, which I think is really sad. Um,
mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's the worst part for me, is like people messaging me, attacking me when they don't know the life I've lived, the life I've, walked through, all the hard things that I've had to do. Like they will never understand that.
Mm,
But I don't know what other people have gone through either. We're so good at putting what we want people to see on social media about, all the great things about our lives, that we kind of forget to mention the hardships that we're going through and stuff. And so I've really taken my social media to like not just put on a face of like this is who I am,
mhm.
but more of like these are kind of the struggles I've gone through as well. I love posting pictures about my ostomy or my feeding tube. Some of those harder things, like being in the hospital and doing testing and all these things, and just talking about it so people know that, like, yeah, it can be hard. And this is a part of my life and things that I go through on a day-to-day basis. I don't think people realize what people with chronic illness have to do day in and day out. Like it's not like we're just laying in bed, like having the best time of our life watching TV and living off of disability. Like that's not really
Right.
what it's like.
Right. And your social media is really upbeat and it's really great because I think you always try to put out a happy message and a good message out there. I think that's so important for other people to check out, no matter what they're going through, because it shows that you can get through anything pretty much. Just a matter of what your attitude is and your point of view.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people, message me through the years of just like, hey, thank you so much for like educating me on this, or thank you for posting this. Like, it really helped me get through something that I'm going through. And so I've loved that people have reached out to me and just let me know that, because then it gives me a sense of like I'm doing something right. And crazy enough, I've actually had people message me from high school, even that like used to bully me or be parts of groups that used to bully me, that reached out and apologized and said
Hmm.
like, hey, I'm sorry that I never stood up for what people in my group were saying about you and bullying you. And like, I'm just sorry, but like, I see your posts and I'm so amazed by what you do. And I wish I would have done something back then. And so it's really validating to me to know that those people are watching me now do what I do and feeling that way, like knowing that. And I can't even imagine like having the guts to write a message like that and sending it to somebody, knowing that like that happened. Like,
Mm.
and I really truly appreciate people that do that. Like, it's never too late to apologize for something.
It gives you hope, right? For humanity,
Yeah,
for
and
people.
it's crazy too, because I feel like it happens a lot when they get in relationships and start having kids of their own, and then they're like, oh my gosh, like I hope this never happens to my kid. Like, I need to say something because I feel bad, because yeah, if I did this to my kid, I wouldn't be happy. And so
Mm.
it it puts a perspective on things for sure.
Yeah, it takes a lot to say you're sorry, and it takes a lot to, like you said, to connect with you on social media when they could just pass it by, but to actually reach out, that shows you're doing great stuff there. I mean, you're putting some good stuff out into the world, so that's important.
Thank you.
I remember a post you made, maybe it was recently, where you talked about mirrors and how mirrors can be scary for someone who's going through suffering with body image. Can you talk about that and why that's so scary for someone? I mean, I think that's something real to that. People really get freaked out by that, right?
Yeah, so when I grew up, I had my closet doors as mirrors. um, it was just there. It was just in the house. Like it was nothing like I had asked for or anything, but um it was hard. It was really hard for me to be in that room. Like as much as I loved my house and my room and I made it a safe place, like looking in the mirror sometimes was really hard for me. Especially where there's like a mirror in the bathroom as well. Like there was never a place where I felt like I could change or just like not see all the scars or the tubes or the ostomy bag or all the different things that were wrong with my body and what society was telling me was wrong with my body, especially at that age of like being a teenager. Like I feel like that's the hardest age to, go through, of being told like you need to look a certain way. um, Especially like with all the like magazines and commercials and like Victoria's Secret fashion show, and like you just want to
Yeah.
be like, you just want to fit in and you just want to be that pretty girl at school. And I felt like I didn't see anybody who looked like me anywhere. Not in magazines, not on TV, not in any sort of media aspect did I see somebody that, one, had an ostomy bag, or two, had tons of scars and a feeding tube. Like that was just not normal. It wasn't normal in the media. They didn't want to showcase that. And so it was really hard for me to like look at myself and like think like, like this is acceptable in society, and um, that I'm beautiful even. So, it wasn't until later on after high school and stuff that I started taking photos with a really beautiful photographer here in Utah that showcased my scars and ostomy bags and, like all the things. And, I looked at those photos for the first time and I was like, oh my gosh, like I am beautiful. Like seeing somebody else be able to take photos and make that into art and show me that, it wasn't until then that I was like, oh my gosh, like yes, I can be beautiful. I could be a model if I want. I could be anything that I want. And like it wasn't until then too that like I was willing to be open in relationships and things of that nature too, because intimacy has definitely been a really big struggle for me as well.
Mm. I'm sure it has. I mean, I'm sure that's kind of you can kind of get in your head, can't you? I mean, kind of freak yourself out.
Yeah.
And that in turn, I guess, with like your husband or a boyfriend, it kind of maybe they wonder or maybe start to think, oh, it's me or something that I'm doing. But when you kind of have that going on within your own head, it's hard to get out of that headspace.
Yes, it's been hard, but I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of self work, with myself. I love to journal and do a lot of different things, and so I've really taken the time to work on myself and go through things that, have been hard for me in my childhood and even now.
Mm. Excellent. Well, I see your crown there and your your sash. Get my words out. You are the Mrs. Petite Utah. Did I get that right? Or
Yes, you're
okay,
correct.
tell me about that experience. What was that like?
Yeah, so I actually first started competing in pageantry for scholarship money because I was very adamant that I was going to graduate debt free. And I
Hmm.
actually did graduate debt free with my bachelor's, but I did have to use student loans for my master's, which is totally fine. But I was super proud of myself to be able to graduate debt free for my bachelor's. That was something I don't feel like a lot of people can do, but especially like with a chronic illness, it was even just more of a defeat for me. Um, but I competed in my first local competition, and I didn't win, but I continued to go on and do it more because I was like, I need scholarship money.
Mm.
And
Yes.
I found some amazing friends in the organization. The Miss America organization was my first pageantry system. And I found amazing women who were, just helping in their communities, which I really loved because I love service work. I love volunteer work. I work for a nonprofit. So that was something totally up my alley. And, they were all getting their degrees and they were really just focused on making life better in
Mm.
all aspects in the community. And so I love that we were focused on something that wasn't about us and like but also bettering ourselves and not just focused on, boys and whatever else. So I loved that about it, and I just continued. And it wasn't until I got second runner up that I felt like I actually was getting the hang of this pageantry stuff. I got the last of my scholarship money as second runner up, and I actually met my husband while I was
Oh,
doing pageantry as well. And so I ended up marrying him, graduating, and then I was like, you know what? I just got the hang of pageants. Like, this shouldn't be the end for me. Like, I could do so much. And so I went to a different system, and I didn't love that system as much. And then I found the petite system, which I was so excited about because as a small girl, I was like, yes, I want to be on stage with other shorties. So I applied for like 3 years in a row for Utah because they don't have a local competition in Utah. So it was all just like online, but they do have local competitions in other states. And so I had applied to be Utah for 3 years in a row, and I didn't get it. They had offered me other titles, but I was very like sold on being Miss Utah. I
hmm.
was like, I don't want a different state. I was like, I love my state. I love the beautiful mountains. Like, I've lived here my whole life. Like, it's like I'd be fine carrying another state's title, but I just kind of felt like, you know what, like I need to represent the state I live in. Like,
Mm.
there's something about this state that I want to represent. And so they offered me the title, and I was so excited this last year. Like, I was like, yes, thank you. I'll accept it. And I've just put in all the work that I can up until now. And so they are still accepting titles for Petite USA. They are a national pageant. And anybody under 5'6", that's the only qualification is you
Hmm.
have to be 5'6" or under. So it's really amazing just to see what petite women can be doing as well.
Wow, I think pageants worked out for you, right? Because you met your husband through that whole process, and yeah, that's awesome, and got your schooling paid for. To graduate bachelor's with debt free, that's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. That's
Thank you.
awesome. Do you feel like this title now has it helped you spread awareness for all these issues that you're passionate about? Have you been able to get the word out even more through your title?
Yes, I've been doing a lot of work here in Utah, working with different companies. I've been interviewed for one of our Fresh Living TV daytime shows. I've also been working with my college as well. I actually am going tomorrow to speak on disability aspects and how, teachers and professors need to be just as informed about these issues just because we're out of high school and don't have those 501(c)(4)s and we're using the disability services. Like, it's just not good enough, and it's not the
Mhm.
same. Like, our professors and staff at the colleges need to put more effort into making sure that it's disability accessible and all the things. So I'm super excited to go speak to my college that I've been with for 8 years, just about like my experience and what I feel like could be changed to help future students as they come into college. So I mean, I'm super excited about that. I've done a lot of podcasts and different interviews on other chronically ill people's podcasts that they do, and so it's been really fun just to not only connect with different people in my community that have chronic illnesses, but in different states as well. It's been really amazing just what little I can do and how far it can go.
Wow. Well, you're very impressive. I'll say that. You're just. I think you're great, and you've got such a great personality and attitude about life. Where does that come from?
Thank you. I think it comes, kind of from both my parents,
Mm.
and probably my grandma as well. My dad, he grew up in a really rough childhood, and he didn't let that stop him to be who he wanted to be. So his mom was a drug addict, and put him up for adoption, all these horrible things. And my dad turned out to be really amazing. He worked, 3 jobs to put himself through school and also take care of me as I was a sick baby. So he's always worked really hard to be able to ensure me and give me the life that I have today. And so I'm super impressed by him and his work ethic. And that's probably where I get it from the most. But my mom's also really amazing. She has a really giving heart. She's always been the person who, if anybody needs help, she's the first one to be cooking meals for a family in need or donating stuff for families that need Christmas or whatever it is. Like, she's the first one to offer help and be willing to do anything. So that's been really amazing. And then my grandma, she battled stage 4 ovarian cancer, and she was literally my hospital buddy my entire life. And so it's really amazing that like we were there for each other. She passed away a couple years ago to unrelated cancer issues. But she didn't take her diagnosis as for what it is. A lot of doctors didn't want to operate on her or help her with her cancer. Like, they kind of gave her a death sentence, and she was like, nope, like that's not the answer I want. So she went to a doctor that was willing to work with her, and she beat her stage 4 cancer, and she lived for like 15 more years. So I mean, that was really amazing, and I loved that she stood by my side and just really understood what some of the things that I was going through, and we were best buds.
Wow. That shows there is something to positive attitude and being told, well, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And then say, no, I'm sorry. That's not good enough for me. I'm going to keep going, keep fighting. Wow. Is it hard sometimes to keep that attitude up and that level of positivity? What do you do, or what advice do you have for, those days where you're just not feeling it?
I feel like I always get in those days, especially like when my health is not how I want it to be. I wish I could control my health, that's for sure, but I cannot. Especially like, if my ostomy bag starts leaking at work or at school, which has happened quite a bit. It's always defeating because I feel really embarrassed and just really like why me type of thing. But I've had amazing people in our staff who, don't judge me for it. And they're actually like, oh my gosh, is there anything I can help? And so it's really nice that I have staff that are understanding of my health. My supervisor is super awesome just with everything in general. Like, if I message her and I'm like, hey, I am not feeling good, like I cannot come into work, she's like, sounds good, like please take the time to not get burnt out or like take care of yourself first. So I love that that's the mindset that my work has, because in corporate world, that's really not what it's about. And I've, really pushed myself in other jobs that have made me sick. And so I love that I have a job that, wants me and my health as my main priority, which my health is my main priority in my life anyways. But sometimes I wish it wasn't. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to do everything that I do in a day for my health. But it has been beneficial now that I have my husband to help kind of navigate those things as well. So, if I pass out because I'm so tired from work and I'm sleeping, sometimes he'll hook my medicine up for me, which is just, so sweet that, I am not getting dehydrated or, declining, because he's willing to do that and not just wake me up and tell me to go do it myself.
Wow. I think you found a good one there.
Yes, I did.
Do you, with everything, with all the advocacy, do you think you found your calling in life?
I'm not sure. I love it. I love it so much, and we'll see where it goes. I don't know. I kind of always feel like I don't plan my life out super far in advance just because of my health. I never know when things are gonna, hit the fan and go downhill. So, I'll always be an advocate. I don't know if I'll do pageants forever, but I love what I'm doing right now, and it makes me happy. So we'll see how long that lasts.
That's awesome. We on this show, we always try to give hope to people who, may be going through similar things or just trouble in life and trying to figure it out like we all are every day. But if there's someone listening, or watching, and they've gotten that cancer diagnosis, or they've got some, been told something health wise or lost someone, what advice would you have for someone to keep going, to knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel and that they're going to be okay?
I think the best advice that I could give is just to anybody, whether you have a cancer diagnosis right now, or you just learned that you're sick, or if you're not sick at all, like if life just kind of sucks, like just live life. I mean, I feel like I was so focused for the majority of my life of when I was going to get better or when things would be better so that I could start doing things in my life that I wanted to do, when I should have just been doing that all along. Life is short. Life is short for a lot of people, and um, I feel like it's so sad that we focus on things like in our social media and comparing ourselves to other people and just making ourselves unhappy on purpose almost, like, so just, live your life, do what makes you happy, and don't compare yourself to where other people are at in life. I used to do that all the time as well, of like, all my peers were going to college and graduating before I could get to college because of how sick I was after high school. And now, I'm graduating with a master's degree, and I have people who are probably comparing themselves to me of like, oh my gosh, like she has her master's degree, she's married, she's doing all these things, and I'm not. Like, trust me, like it took me a long time to get to this point, but dwelling on those things and focusing on those things and not living can really not help you get to where you want to be. Like if you're living and you're doing the things that you're supposed to in life, like the things that you want and are hoping for, they'll come. And they'll come at the right time when you need them the most.
Wow. Very well said. Very well said. Where can people find you if they want to follow or connect with you? Where are you online?
I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. If you just type in Shaylee Ray, you'll probably find me. So.
Wow. Okay. I mean, you are an amazing person. You have the greatest attitude I think I've ever seen in my life. You are so upbeat. And I think people should really check out your social media, because if you're having a bad day, or if life is getting you down, and check it out. And I think it'll really, really help out and bring you up. So thank you so much. I just a great conversation. I'm honored to meet you, and thank you for everything you're doing, and best of luck with, if you do continue with pageants or whatever you do. I know you're going to be successful.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I love spreading the joy and happiness. And so I'm so pleased to have been on your podcast.
Oh, thank you, Shaylee. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Happiness Sold Separately is created and hosted by Jason Hensley and is produced by Makash Films. Music by Soundstripe. Narration by Lauren Gobis. If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs immediate help, call the National Mental Health Hotline at 866-903-3787. We would be honored if you would rate, share, and subscribe. From the entire Happiness Sold Separately team, thank you for listening.